Hey, this is Mrs. D, and last time we talked about hidden things and changing screens. So our previous app, we were able to go next and back, and then we were able to put in numbers here, and then these would go hidden, and it would show the numbers. And we talked about how in the design, we could have these things as a whole chunk and name them, and putting a 1 after each thing, so that if I put another chunk, I could have start input submit 1 above start input submit 2, above start input submit 3 if I wanted, all the way down. And so that would make the coding easier because I would be able to, as text, copy and paste this chunk right here, which is making things hidden and visible, and then just change the number for each chunk. That's what we talked about last time. And the other thing we talked about last time was our start pages. So previously, this was the start page, and when you first open an app, whatever screen you start with is the default one. If you want to make another one default, which is what I wanted to do, you would have to make default. So this is what it looked like. So if I ran it, it would always go back to this page, but we wanted a new page. So what I did was I came in and I just made that one the default. So now this ridiculous page is now the start page. Okay, that's what we did last time. What I wanted to talk about this time was using lists for variables. So if we look at the code, right now we just have regular variables, but I wanted to go in and I wanted to talk a little bit about lists. And then, so this is what our lists would look like. If you have numbers in your list, you wouldn't use quotes. If you have letters or words, you would use quotes for the list. And using these lists in an app is pretty important. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Before I do that, I want to pause the recording and I want to go through and have another round of these buttons show up and disappear just so you can see how that looks. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I've gone through and I've duplicated everything, and it's really easy to duplicate. Just to review, you can duplicate just by clicking the button over here, and then you're getting all the properties that you had before. And then all I was doing was I was coming in, this is start input 2, so I was copying it, and then I was giving that the name, whoops. And then it turns red because that already exists, so I remember to change it to start input 3. So if I wanted that there, I would have the name. Okay, so I've got these two things. So to get back to the code, I'm going to copy and paste this whole chunk. And I'm just going to change all these numbers to 2. And then my hypothesis is that I will answer what is my favorite color after I answer my favorite number. And when I click these, I will just be left with these two pieces of data at the end. Again, this data isn't going anywhere. I have not set variables to collect this information. So at this point, it's really only sitting on the screen. And there we go. So it works. And like I said, it's the intentional naming that makes that so easy. So that really helps you when you're designing your app. So what I wanted to do today was I wanted to make a new screen, and I wanted to kind of set up a list up here so that on the new screen, you could have a list of items, and quite possibly these, so that you could build a password along with your login value. So if we hit next, you type your name and you type your age, and then down here it gives you like what your possible login is, right? Oh, I'm in the wrong version of the app. Okay, no worries. Let me just hop out really quick and grab that code and come back, and we will continue to design our multi-screen login experience. Okay, I've gone ahead and I put in the two things that we needed to have the lock screen in our multi-page experience. I had to add the variable user login, and then I had to use that user login to do the string work, which was to uppercase and substring, and then to set the text on the output to the user login. So if we hit run, we go back to this page because that's what we said as the beginning. Still not storing that information. and I've got your new username to log in is now Rando5. All right, we are there. What I want to talk about now is a list. So let's go back and look at the other page. So in our start page, we have these two things, and we could turn that into a list. That would certainly be helpful. There are other things that we can turn into a list. And so let me pull up Wikipedia and we can talk about passwords. Okay, so one of the things that happens is that there are data breaches, and data breaches can be for credit card companies, for logins to Netflix, all sorts of things, email logins. And when those data breaches occur, one of the good things that happens is that people study the passwords and they're able to give out really good advice about which passwords you should not use. So here in Wikipedia, it says list of the most common passwords. And then here we go. NordPass said that these are the worst. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Password. This is the first line of your keyboard, most likely. Password 1, 2, 3. So there's lots of bad ideas here. So what if we wanted to have a list of suggestions of like, please don't use these passwords? There's a couple different ways we could do it. And then down here, they even have a more comprehensive, like across all these years list of different passwords. And like some really weird ones. I don't know what Zach1 means. There might be some movie or something. Football, just a bunch of 1s or 6s. It's all over the place. But also in this list, there's things like Let Me In, which is funny. Dragon, so who knows what that's from. Then there's Star Wars. There's Han Solo, maybe, for this solo one. Admin is a common one that is just really ridiculous. If you get a laptop from your company, a lot of times the login is admin and the username and the password are both admin, and then you go in and you change both of them. In school, sometimes it'll be student and student, and some people will just keep that as their password, which is really ridiculous. All right, so we see these terrible passwords. So we could probably build a page really quick that could get some information about the user to give them an idea of a better password to use. And then we could also suggest to not use some of these passwords. So let's look at doing that. I think this will be a using data video, so we probably won't get to this in this video, or probably the next video, because we have to go and figure out how to take this table and import it into code.org. So we'll probably just look at the list this time, and then next time we'll come into this. All right, before we go back, this is like just some advice from a university right here. So it says never reveal your passwords to others. We all know that. Different passwords for different accounts. That's important because if you use your bank password for everything else and something else gets leaked, then someone can get into your bank account. Multi-factor authentication. Length trumps complexity, but then down here, complexity still counts. So we want something that's hard to guess but easy to remember. Or we want to use multi-factor authentication or a password manager. And in fact, there's some research out here that says that passwords may be obsolete as is. But so we want to build something that is kind of memorable, right? Hard to guess, but easy to remember. So let's go back to the app and let's figure out how to do that. All right, so we're like halfway there because we've got a favorite number, a favorite color, and you could do anything with that. There are other things that people have used in questions, like mom's maiden name and all that. But let's just come up with one more round of questions and then we'll build this into a list. So I'm going to make one more round of these buttons. I'm going to change from button to something more meaningful on this text. And then we'll build the list so that all of this works. All right, so I've got the buttons put in. Everything's just got a 3 after it. And I decided my third question was going to be, what is your favorite compliment? So when we go into the code, it's going to be the same thing again. I'm going to copy and paste this information, and then right below, I'm just going to paste it in and change all these 2s to 3s. And my advice for this is, even though even if you decide you're going to do 6 buttons at once, to test after each round of buttons, it sounds tedious, but if you mess this up and do it 6 times, it's just way too frustrating. All right, so now we still aren't storing this information. Favorite number, 13. Favorite color, red. Favorite compliment, genius. All right, So now I can submit them. And Genius is, the word is too long, so I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to reset it. I'm going to shrink all these buttons down in design mode. I'm going to make this box bigger, and then I'm going to shrink the font. All right, we'll run it one more time. So I'd probably, in design mode, I think that font size is a little too small. I'd probably do the same thing to this button, because like, you want to choose chartreuse, you got to choose chartreuse. So we'll take that down to 19 too. All right, one final test. Let's do something purple, longer, Genius. All right, let's submit it. Okay, I'll accept it. I'm not really happy with these font sizes, but 17 and 19, is that what it is? Yeah. All right, we'll do 19 and 19. Okay, so now I've got some information. What I have to do now is I have to set up a list. And what we want to do with that list again is to make an easy, memorable password for this person, right? So on the next page, they're doing their login. So this is going to be information for their password. So it says, welcome to the app. That should probably change and get more detailed, but that's not what we're worried about right now. Okay, so var, right? We're coming down here and we're looking at lists, and we're going to want to store words, right? So we're going to have, it's the same as variable. It says list, but it's the same as an X. I could put an X there. So var password list is a good name for this. And then what I want to do is I want to have, wrong brackets, I want to have an empty list. So this is an empty list. And then I want to update it with each of these buttons, right? So we want to append an item. So append item, that adds it to the end. That adds it to the end. And then if you choose insert item, you have to put an index number. So if you always want it to insert to the third place or whatever, append item is a lot easier. Okay, so when we click this, we want to append an item, and we'll try it on 1. So we're starting on submit 1, and then let's go to block so you can see how this works. So what is the name of our list? The name of our list is password list. And for here, this is where it's interesting. I want to get the text, right? So we go back to UI controls, and I want to get the text. And we're getting the text from start output 1. We could actually get it from this box too, but and then to test this, we're going to console log it. So the console log is in functions. Yes. No, maybe. Variables. Oh, there it is. I completely messed it. All right, so we're going to console log, and we're going to console log password list just to see what happens. Okay, so I've only changed this one button, but let's try it right now. And it put 13 on the list. So we can use the output like we thought. If you really want to make sure if you're capturing the information, you obviously would want to capture it from this. So let's go ahead and do input and see if that works. And 13 is on the list. Okay, so I'm going to switch to text. And I'm going to copy these two things. And I'm going to put them for the next button. And now instead of start output 1, I'm going to do start output 2. Reset it, run it. 13's on the list. Red's on the list. So now 13 is still there and we've added red. So let's do it one more time. Thirteen red, 13 red genius. All right, so we've got a list now and we can use that to suggest a password. So let's go back to design. Let's just change this. The login and password. Welcome to the login and password app. All right. It's a terrible name. All right. So let's get some info to build a password. So the person goes through, does all that, hits next. I go to the name age page. And so then like down here in text output, let's go ahead and give them a password and a login. So we want to use text output here as the ID. So here on the submit, we want to add just something about the password. So what do we have so far? Hello, your name, your new username to log in is user login. And a possible password is, right? We'll do a little space there. So let's make one more variable. Wow, don't put a space in there. Suggested password, and we'll just put a semicolon there. Okay, so then we need another string kind of thing here. So suggested password equals, and then let's use that list item, right? So we've got this list up here, the password list. So we could say it equals password list, and then we'll do 2 plus password list. We're gonna put the 1 in, or the number in the middle, right? Oh wait, wrong number. So when we number in lists, we start with 0. So if I want the second thing, I'm going to put the first, and if I want the first thing, I'm going to put the 0 because it's a stupid computer and it needs to start at 0. And then we'll do password list 2. All right. So now we've got that, and then we're going to just go ahead and do suggested password. And then my hypothesis is it'll all come up together in the in our text output box. All right, let's run it and see what happens. All right, so we've built our list. Submit. Red 13 genius. All right, so rando1 would have a nice little password there. We would probably want some kind of uppercase in there, but that's another substring kind of thing, or we could do an uppercase. We could do a 2 uppercase if we wanted to. But right now what we've got rando1 and a password. So we've used a list. So that's everything we wanted to do. And we've got a nice multi-page thing. The last thing we'd want to do is maybe have another box down here that says, please avoid passwords like, and then we can choose from that data next time.